Are you curious about how to figure out compatibility between you and another person? Well, in astrology, we use something called a Synastry chart, and it looks at two charts simultaneously. It focuses on the aspects between the two parties. When I started to look into this, I looked at what other astrologers said about compatibility. And a lot of what people said were the basic elements that are compatible, like earth with water, fire with air. And that there was some focus on where the moon and Mercury, along with Venus and Mars, are located in the charts. Also, if there's anything in the 5th house of pleasure or the 7th house in relationships. These all make sense and are definitely important to consider and to incorporate when looking at a Synastry chart. However, I of course wanted to have a look for myself. So I found 12 couples that have been together for at least 20 years or more. Some are married, some aren't married, some heteronormative style, some queer. This is what I figured out. Some of it was pretty surprising. The most prominent element in the compatibility charts, water. As the modes like cardinal, fixed, and mutable, as long as the two parties had different modes, they seemed to be more compatible. The only exception was fixed signs. The fixed signs seem to be the most likely to be in a long-term relationship in general. The fixable signs are the ones that like to work through everything, so that does make sense. When it comes to straight up compatibility, if you look at the chart of each individual's dominant element, the most compatible one seems to be water and air, because water is kind of the base, and then air is the expression of that. When it gets to sun sign compatibility, two water signs, which seems fairly obvious, but water and fire? I found that quite interesting. But really, they can be nourishing rather than destroying each other as we normally associate. The moon and Mercury element compatibility is similar to the overall compatibility in that it's air and water, because the water moon shows the emotion and the air has that base of communication. And in the case of Mercury, you have the water giving the focus and the air brings objectiveness. When you move into rising sign compatibility, it's fire and water. And the same goes for Mars. In the case of rising signs, the water rising can bring some sensitivity to the situation, and the fire brings the motivation. Whereas with Mars, they're both highly intuitive. And so the water intuition is more about the emotion, and the fires is more about action. Then I got into the aspects. As a reminder, aspects are the degrees that establish the relationships between two placements in a chart. As an example here, the outer ring placements to the inner ring placements. And what I found was, for the sun, the ego, it's square or 90 degrees, which creates conflict with the moon, which is your emotions. That's going to establish a bit of friction, but it also calls attention to it. And it seems like moon might humble the ego of the sun, and that's why that ends up being compatible. Another aspect, the sun, again, the ego, that's trine, 120 degrees. It's the same element. It is an in-sync aspect. So with Mars, which is passion, it stimulates passion. It's going to support longevity in a relationship. Another aspect I found, and also about the sun, was when it was sextile, which is 60 degrees, very cooperative, to Saturn. Saturn's your responsibility. That aspect is going to promote patience and long-term stability. I looked at rising, and rising is in conjunction, and conjunction means it's in the same sign, so they blend energy. And in this case, the rising is in conjunction with Saturn, and that's, again, responsibility. So this is going to motivate the pairing to get work done. Another aspect that I noticed was Saturn, and that's, again, responsibility, was trine. Remember, that is the same element, so it's in sync with Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion. So that just means you're going to have practical growth. When I started to look at the houses, and I was expecting to see a lot of 5th house of pleasure or 7th house of relationships, but in actuality, there was an abundance of placement in the 10th house, which is long-term achievements, and the 12th house of intuition. There's a few specific placements that showed up a lot in the charts I analyzed. For example, Mercury, the planet of communication, in the 1st house of self. That's immediate connection. They felt heard in that situation. And then there was the moon, which of course represents emotion, in the 6th house of health. So that's going to promote insight into each other's needs. Then there was Venus, which is the planet of love, and it's in the 10th house of discipline. But if you think about it, that helps put business in front of pleasure, which can maintain a relationship for longer term. Also, Saturn seems to be in its domicile of the 10th house a lot of the time in these charts. And that 10th house is about discipline. This makes it easy to manifest their destiny. Mars, the planet of passion, I found it most frequently to be in the 11th house of community and teamwork. It creates that loyalty. Jupiter, as the planet of expansion, 12th house, the house of intuition. And it brings in cooperation and an overall elevation of the relationship. I did go ahead and rank in order the most compatible to least compatible, and how I figured this out, which sign had the most placements in these compatibility charts. Thanks for joining me. This is a lot of information and you might need an astrologer to help you with the reading. And if that's the case and you're interested in me helping you, please check out the link in my bio and you'll see there how to get a hold of me for a Synastry chart reading. If you don't want a reading, but you just want to pull up your Synastry chart, the link in my bio is also there for that as well. Thank you all, and until next time, cheers.